Us are complaining that we have many empty chairs and they'd like those occupied so that we have beautiful pictures sending them out, because I think we're live, isn't it? Yeah, please, if you don't mind. Those who are sitting at the far right, we have space here. Those who will be joining us later can occupy the seats that you're occupying right now. Kindly, if you can do that within a minute, I'll be more than happy. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for making time for this wonderful session. As you all know, this plenary too will be discussing unleashing the potential of the blue economy through investment and finance. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, may I now please invite our moderator this afternoon. He is none other than the Director General, Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, otherwise known as KEMFRI, Dr. Paul Orina. You have the stage, sir. Welcome. Media, we need the mic.
Thank you so much, MC. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. I needed to hear from you. As it has been indicated, I am your moderator this afternoon. Very briefly. So what do we do? Can I give that? Okay, fine. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Madam PS, all delegates, good afternoon. It's indeed my great pleasure to be your moderator this afternoon on matters to do with unleashing the potential of blue economy through investment and finance. I would wish to say that the blue economy has great potential. However, in the African region, we may not have tapped the potential fully, and many other parts of the world. This is from maritime to fisheries to aquaculture, and even to the blue bonds, talking about mangroves and all that, mangrove conservation, and all these aspects. The communities along the coast who have seen the richness of our oceans, but have not tapped out of it. The financing sector, I know the banks are in here, and they've always asked us, where is the opportunity in the blue economy? Because they hear about the blue economy, and they wonder, where do they come in? And about a month ago, we had a session with one of the banks that is here, Kenya Commercial Bank, and one of the discussions we were having is, they were asking us, where do we intervene? We have development partners who would wish to see where the opportunities lie. And so as we run through the entire spectrum of maritime aspects, to fisheries, to aquaculture, all these aspects, including technology that is required in this current era, requires finances and opportunities for investments to be laid bare. Our 11th the 11th Hour Ocean Conference creates an opportunity for us to discuss this very important aspect. The pre-conference discussed about research, and a lot of research findings. But now we want to discuss about turning this into reality. And I want to take this opportunity at this moment to allow our PS to come and open this session officially. Thank you so much. Welcome, Madam PS.
Thank you, DG. Good afternoon. So before I make my keynote speech, I would wish to invite one of our key partners, KCB Group, to make his remarks on behalf of the MD and the Group CEO. Karibu sana, David.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Betsy Njagi, Principal Secretary, State Department of Blue Economy. Allow me to stand on the already established protocol. My name is Peter Ngeno. I lead the Corporate Banking Division in KCB. I'm so happy to be here in this very timely conversation around blue economy. It is a great honor to join you at our Ocean Conference that we explore the emerging opportunities that exist within the blue economy space. As we explore pathways towards a sustainable blue economy, it is important to recognize the critical role that finance must play in this transformation. At KCB, we believe that finance has the power to transform economies when deployed responsibly and strategically. We see enormous potential in supporting enterprises and initiatives that strengthen the blue economy while creating sustainable value for communities, investors, and future generations. To that extent, KCB Bank is uniquely positioned to mobilize these investments by developing tailored financial solutions, supporting blended finance structures, facilitating access to green bonds, and partnering with the public and private sector players to unlock capital at scale. Ultimately, these ambitions cannot be realized by any single institution acting alone, given the multifaceted challenges confronting our oceans are actually multifaceted. We must all continue to establish enabling policy and regulatory framework that encourages sustainable growth. The opportunity before us is immense. Africa's oceans and coastal resources hold tremendous potential to drive inclusive growth, create millions of jobs, and strengthen economic resilience. The question is whether we are prepared to invest boldly enough to unlock that potential. In closing, we are here to recommit our support towards these ambitions, and we look forward to deeper collaboration with all stakeholders present here under the stewardship of the State Department of Blue Economy. As the previous speaker mentioned, we've started a co-creating activity together with the State Department of Blue Economy, where we've come up with key areas of collaboration, be it marine insurance, be it transport across the oceans, and many other areas of collaborations that we are working on together. As KCB, we pride ourselves in co-creating solutions. We know that sometimes we may not have all the keys that unlock opportunities and unlock capital at scale. But when we come together with various stakeholders, we bring our brains together and sit around the table and come up with ideas and solutions that facilitate sustainable financing of all the sectors that we participate in. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter, on behalf of David. The Commissioner for the Ocean at the European Commission, Mr. Kostas Kadis. The Permanent Representative to the UN Government of Palau, Ilana, my friend. The Secretary of State, Alain, in charge of Fisheries and Blue Economy in Seychelles. Marcus Nige, the Executive Director, Blue Action Fund. My sister, Susan Gardner, the Director of Ecosystem at the United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. And finally, the Chair of the Blue Economy Committee for the Council of Governors, Kenya, Dr. Paulo Tuoma, and also the Governor of Busia County. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon once again. Blue Economy represents a special investment opportunity which aligns to the economic growth and environmental sustainability. Kenya fully acknowledges the immense role of the blue economy in advancing its national development agenda, while also contributing to broader continental aspiration under the African Union Agenda 2063, and of course, the global commitments such as the United Nations Sustainable Goals SDG 14. To fulfill this SDG 14 and transition to a circular and sustainable blue economy, there's an urgent need to reserve destructive ocean activities that contribute to environmental degradation. We advocate for national policies that transition waste management from a public liability into private sector opportunity. And also, product design innovation and sustainable alternative materials that keep plastic out of our marine food chains. Our oceans, abundant with diverse marine life, represent not only a foundation for food security, but also a multi-billion-dollar investment frontier. Investments in the deep-sea fishing in Africa underutilized marine resources with modern fleets and cold chain infrastructure can unlock significant returns while driving sustainability, resilience, and inclusive growth across coastal economies. Even as we expand investments in the blue economy, it is essential to prioritize the sustainable management and conservation of our marine ecosystem. Strategic capital must be directed toward combating threats that undermine the health and resilience of our ocean. That includes, but not limited to, pollution, habitat destruction, and climate change. African oceans are certainly of strategic importance to the continent and provide a lot of opportunities for fisheries, aquaculture, shipping and logistics, coastal tourism, offshore oil and gas, energy mobilization, and other blue-related activities. While many countries have developed the national blue economy strategies or policies, there remain a huge gap into translating these policies framework into investment portfolio to attract sustainable investment, including taxonomies. Of course, they include infrastructure, finance, innovation, and many others. De-risking investment through insurance is very critical to this also. We know that uncertainty, climate shocks, market volatility, and unforeseen risk can deter investment. But with FSIs and insurance companies and other de-risking mechanisms, we can provide confidence and stability. Therefore, as we conclude, by channeling finance into innovative technologies, resilience infrastructure, and conservation-driven business models, we not only safeguard marine biodiversity, but also unlock long-term economic opportunity. Sustainable investment ensures that growth in the blue economy is both profitable and protective, securing prosperity for present and future generations. In conclusion, let us come together as policymakers, researchers, academia, industry leaders, financiers, and citizens to embrace the immense potential offered by the blue economy. Through collaboration, innovation, strategic investment, and a commitment to sustainability, we can mobilize capital to modernize infrastructure, expand blue economy activities and initiatives, and develop resilient coastal industry. We look forward to building a common framework that integrates sustainability, resilience, and financing for catalyzing high-scale investment for making a sustainable blue economy a reality. I thank you very much, and I look forward to further engagement in this. Asanteni sana.
Thank you so much, Madam PS. And now may I invite back on stage Dr. Orina to continue with the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nimrod. It's my great honor once again now to invite our panelists. And I will not call you in any special order. So as I call you, you kindly come and take your position. And let me take this opportunity to begin by inviting Honorable Kostas Kadis, Commissioner for the Ocean European Commission. Let's clap for him as he comes. Thank you, Commissioner. You're welcome. And he is followed by Ambassador Ilana Said, Permanent Representative to the UN Government of Palau. Let's clap for her. And she is followed by Ambassador Ilana Said. That's Ambassador Ilana Said. Now, the next one is Honorable Alain de Komarmond, Secretary of State, Fisheries and Blue Economy, Seychelles. Wow. Let's clap for him. Thank you so much. And now I take this opportunity to invite the Chairman of Blue Economy, that is Honorable Dr. Paul Otuoma, the Governor of Busia County. This is followed by Marcus Krieger, Executive Director, Blue Action Fund. You're welcome. And finally, I welcome Susan Gardner, the Director of the Ecosystems Division, United Nations Development Program. Let's clap for her. Thank you so much. And at this moment, I want to invite you to be able to come and give your speech. I want to moderate you to 5 minutes, if you kindly will allow me. And this will begin with Honorable Costas Cadiz. Commissioner, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of the ocean, it is an honor to address such distinguished gathering at the 11th edition of our Ocean Conference, the first held in Africa, bringing together governments, NGOs, the private sector, and the academic community to address the important ocean issues of our time. The theme, our ocean, our heritage, our future, could not be more timely. The ocean faces global challenges, from climate change to pollution and biodiversity loss, that demand global solutions, with multilateral cooperation, strong partnerships, and a rules-based global system. The European Union remains firmly committed to these principles and to turning them into action. Investment and funding is, of course, a key part of this endeavor. And today, I am proud to announce 26 new European Union commitments worth over 338 million euros for action across all themes of this conference, including the sustainable blue economy. The European Ocean Pact, adopted by the European Commission last year, underscores a simple truth. A thriving blue economy is vital for coastal communities, food security, clean energy, innovation, and global competitiveness. From traditional sectors like fisheries and tourism to emerging industries such as renewable ocean energy, blue biotechnology, and ocean observation, this transition requires smart investment that delivers financial, environmental, and social returns. The European Union's approach is integrated, blending public and private funding for maximum impact. This is reflected in several of the EU's new pledges, and as an example, let me highlight 3 key initiatives which are particularly relevant for Africa. First, the EU committed 2.4 million euro for the period 2025 to 2028 to advance the development of a sustainable blue economy in Africa. This includes organizing investor-entrepreneur matchmaking events, fostering partnerships between African and European stakeholders. We will also launch the Blue Invest Africa platform to provide tailored support to African startups, SMEs, and investors in both the European Union and in Africa. Since 2022, Blue Invest Africa has grown into a vibrant ecosystem. Let me express once again our appreciation to the governments of Seychelles, Kenya, and Togo, who over the years have hosted the event. Second, the EU announces an engagement of 20 million euro for secure ports in West and Central Africa. Building on the success of the Western and Central Africa Port Security Project, this initiative will improve the security and safety of 10 ports in West and Central Africa, strengthening regional connectivity. And third, moving to ocean observation, the European Union is committing 50 million euro for the Ocean Eye, our new initiative to support and expand the Global Ocean Observing System, GOOS, coordinated by IOC UNESCO, improving biodiversity monitoring and driving innovation in ocean observation technologies. In parallel, the EU supports its African partners through the Ocean Prediction Enhancement in Regions of Africa, the OPERA program, with 10 million euro. Of course, to secure funding and investments, business need predictability and a simplified regulatory framework. That is why at EU level, the upcoming European Ocean Act will aim to simplify maritime governance and foster strategic coordination in spatial planning. In conclusion, the blue economy's potential will not only be unlocked through sustained investment, a robust global ocean observing system, and a clear and simplified regulatory framework. The EU's commitments and ongoing work reflect our dedication, but real and global change requires global partnerships, a shared resolve to turn ambition into collective action. And this is why we are here, and we look forward to working together for our ocean, our heritage, and our future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. A shared resolve to change commitments into action. And at this point, I want to invite Ambassador Elana Said to also give her remarks. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Paul, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much for having me on this plenary 2, which is unleashing the potential of the blue economy through investment and finances. Many of you probably know that Sustainable Development Goal 14, Life Below Water, which is the ocean SDG, is the most underfunded of all the United Nations SDGs. And that's a really big problem for us as ocean countries, because we all know this, the ocean covers almost 70% of the Earth, and so it's always perplexing when something that's so important to many of our livelihoods as ocean states, as well as for many of the benefits to the planet, whether it's absorbing excess heat and others, that there's so little funding that's been dedicated to the blue economy and to the oceans. But I do have some good news, which some of us have just come back from the Blue Economy and Finance Forum that was recently held in Monaco. And it seems like the tide is turning. So it looks like since all of our collective efforts to really drive investment, the thesis of investment in the ocean is really starting to turn. Industry has come in to say that they're already looking at many segments of the blue economy. Shipping is one in particular that seems to have a kind of a bright light towards it. A lot of the private sector shipping companies have said, we're ready to invest. The private capital markets are ready to give us the money, but the public signals are not very clear. And so I think that's, for those of us who are policymakers, I think that's a key thing that we need to work on. So maybe just a couple of things to highlight. One is I think we need to get our governance structures of the ocean in place. I also serve as the co-chair for the high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy, and one of the governance structures that we are advocating for is something called a sustainable ocean plan. And a sustainable ocean plan is really for governments to look at their ocean and to think about it and to come up with a master plan of what that entails. Where do your shipping lines go? Where does the fiber optic cables, where are they laid down? Where are the marine protected areas, and how are those decisions driven by science, by traditional knowledge, by really of a whole of society exercise to think about the ocean as a place where order and governance is put in place? And then how do you then translate that into the implementation of the High Seas Treaty? So BBNJ was recently enacted, entered into force early this year. So the ocean, through domestic policies like sustainable ocean plans, as well as the governance of the high seas, is looking to become a place where there's governance structures in place that will attract investment. And so, I think investment doesn't really go to places that are a bit of a free-for-all. So I think the collective work that we do, whether it's domestically or in the multilateral arena, will go a long way into attracting the right investment into the blue economy. The second is structuring, and I think Betsy had mentioned a little bit of that, and how do we work with our donor countries, with our partners, with the MDBs and the IFIs to really think about structuring investment into the blue economy in different ways. So whether that's through insurance that will limit some of the risks that are exposed through the blue economy, or whether through government guarantees. So, and I'm sure my colleague from the Seychelles will speak to some of the blue bond work that they had done, but how can donor governments also help guarantee some of these instruments, and so that will make it more attractive and less risky for the private investors to come in and really increase some of the funding towards the blue economy. And I think finally, I'd also say what's important for attracting investment is innovation. So how can we look at things like biodiversity credits, things that are really kind of at the forefront of innovation, and how do we also look not just innovation in financing, but also innovation in the blue ecosystem. So things like marine biotech and things that maybe they're not industries of the past, but have really big, tremendous growth potential that might be a little bit more interesting to the investors that are present today, whether it's the venture capitalists that are looking at ocean data. That's also a really big space that was talked about at the Blue Economy and Finance Forum. So really, I think just to summarize, I think there's a tremendous amount of potential. It felt at the BEF that the space, the blue economy space is really where kind of the green climate space was maybe 10 years ago. So there was a lot of potential. The Paris Agreement had come into play, and then the financing followed. So hopefully in 10 years, we'll see that there will be trillions of dollars that will have come into the blue finance space, but it really requires our dedication to increase governance, structuring, and really relying on the MDBs and the IFIs to create more innovative structures to attract investment into the space. And finally, innovation both within industry, but as well as with financing instruments. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. And one of the things that I've picked out is life below SDG 14, underfunding, and de-risking investment, issues biodiversity. Thank you so much. Let me take this opportunity now to invite Honorable Alain de Comarmont also to come and give his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. All protocols observed. Ladies and gents, good afternoon. It's a great privilege on behalf of Government of Seychelles to be given the chance to share our experience in regards to financing and investment in oceans. And what better platform than to be at home on African soil. And it's a good time also to thank the government and people of Kenya for their warm hospitality since we arrived. For Seychelles, we small island states, 115 islands, 1.3 million square kilometers, with just less than 500 square kilometers of land. So clearly, as you can see, the ocean is our heritage, our economy, and our future, all in one. More than 15 years ago, Seychelles embarked on this journey that we are always referred to in regards to exploring some of these innovative schemes, financial schemes, with different partners. And the timing of it was perfect because the country at the time was centering itself in terms of long-term development and also accessible use of our ocean space. And this is where our leaders back then, way back in 2011, 2012, started championing the whole idea across the African region, but also globally. That choice forced us to question something familiar to all small island states. How do you finance ocean stewardship when your fiscal space is so constrained by often debt and acute climate exposure and risk? So our answer came in two parts. Firstly, in 2016, with partnership from the Nature Conservancy, we negotiated our external debt with the Paris Club and restructured to the value of $21.6 million by accomplishing the world's first sovereign debt dedicated to the ocean conservation. And through that transaction also, the structure was put in place with the Seychelles Conservation and Climate Adaptation Trust. All this underpinned with our commitment to protect 30% of our ocean, way before the whole 30 by 30 movement had started. And 2019, we reached that goal, 32.9% of our EZ set aside, an area of over 400,000 square kilometers of MPAs was designated. And last year, we launched our full marine spatial plan. This followed by the blue bonds, which is most talked about now. We were again one of the first. And critical to that was very good partnerships with the World Bank and the GEF to de-risk the environment itself before the impact investors can come in, which eventually helped in them contributing over $5 million into the bond, and directly contributing towards accessible fisheries, promotion of the blue economy, and marine protection through two mechanisms, the trust, but also our National Development Bank of Seychelles, where some of the proceeds was channeled for loans to businesses and companies. So these instruments and processes over the years have proved that the subject of ocean health and sovereign finance are not always competing against each other, but they are priorities. The Seychelles does not consider that we've finished the work. We still have a lot of work to be done. So we are calling on partners and investors and collaborators to continue with us on this journey, because now we have 400,000 square kilometers to implement and manage effectively. On top of domestic resources, obviously, we will have to have external financing coming in, partners, similarly to when we began. So this is the call today. We remain one of the models, one of the examples to prove that it can work and it can happen. So on the domestic front, when it comes to the blue economy, we've started the journey way back in 2014, 2015. We're now charting our way forward with our blue economy roadmap. And we've learned a lot of lessons along the way, but we're still forging ahead with efforts towards areas such as sustainable aquaculture, circular economy, and new innovative sectors such as blue biotechnology. At the same time, supporting the younger generation to come in through our own Blue Economy Business Challenge Fund. In addition, all our external partners, some of you are present today, remain very important, because though we've had so much success, we still need help in partnership with you all. Regionally, also, we remain one of the leaders or champions working with structures regionally, such as the Nairobi Convention under the UNEP Regional Seas, as well as the Indian Ocean Commission, which over the years has played a very important role with the support of partners to ensure that ocean governance processes are properly mainstream in the different countries and also collectively, regionally. So Seychelles remains committed to work with partners through the different regional frameworks to ensure that, especially within the Western Indian Ocean, we have a uniform effort when it comes to effective ocean governance, proactive blue economy development. So to conclude, ladies and gents, so we opened the door back in 2016 and 2018. Our task now is to widen it and move on with the lessons learned and continue to refine it. We've talked a lot about the blue bonds, and since then there's been, from my understanding, new structures that facilitates the implementation of such bonds from other countries that has explored it since then. So we stand ready to turn ambitions, designations into implementation. So I wish to thank you all for your attention and looking forward to contributing a little bit more about our experience on the panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We had a conversation before we came that we shall be the most disciplined in terms of time. And since I'm dealing with very senior people, I am a little bit restrained. Let me take this opportunity to welcome His Excellency, the Governor of Busia County, to come and also give his remarks.
Thank you so much, Moderator. I'll keep time. Let me observe all the protocols that have already been established, and in a special way thank my colleague for joining us, Dr. Tichilo, the Governor of Vihiga, who is also the Chair of Climate Change in the Council of Governors. Welcome. I'm sure you'll be saying something very soon. So, Moderator and all colleagues who are here, on behalf of subnational governments, which I represent, as the chair of the blue economy, in Kenya, we talk about 48 governments, but one nation. That means we have got one national government, but we have got 47 sub-county governments, which we call counties. And basically, these are the units through which we govern this country, the 47. So I'm here maybe just to share a bit of what we'll be calling how do we mainstream these subnational governments into the ocean matters that are affecting us globally, as the theme is talking about our ocean, our future, and all the potential that we have just been talking about. And more so in this plenary on the issue of unleashing the potential of the blue economy through investments and financing. I'm saying this because as county governments or subnational governments, sometimes we find ourselves at the tail end of negotiations once national governments with all the other stakeholders have finished agreements. And that is when we are coming in either as implementers of something that maybe we were never mainstreamed from the beginning. So really be looking forward that when we talk about investments, how do we bring in subnational governments from the beginning stage to participate with the national government so that when it comes to implementation, it becomes a bit easier. How do you translate an idea, a scientific research, into an actionable program? Because at the end of the day, all that we are talking about, whether it's investment, whether it is research, it has to be translated into some actionable programs. Now, if subnational governments are not involved, do you again start teaching them from that point at the tail end when maybe agreements have already been done. We are saying this because sometimes we are constrained because of the small units that we are in. You will find that negotiating with development partners or financing partners is not easy for each of these subnational governments. But through our collective, what we are calling ourselves the Council of Governors that brings all these subnational governments together, there's a structure through which we can be mainstreamed into those negotiations when they are still happening at the national government stages, so that when programs are being rolled out, we are ready for those programs. And we have had an experience here in Kenya, where we have had issues here in coastal communities, programs that needed to be rolled out regarding the blue economy. And by the time we come to implement them, most of us were saying we are not aware. You need our staff. They have been attending meetings, but we are not even aware. So how do we release our staff to participate in this program? So you start finding challenges when it comes to implementation of some of these programs. Secondly, these communities that we deal with, the frontline communities, the artisanal fishermen that live with us, we are the ones who live with them. We are the ones who work with them on a day-to-day basis. And they are the ones that are mostly affected by either elements of climate change or any mitigation programs that are coming up. So how do we again arrange them, organize them in a way that we can aggregate them together to be able to make delivery of some of these services better? That again can work very well if we are mainstreamed in the negotiations, in the plannings from the early stages. And that will be one of our asks as county governments, so that whatever is being discussed, the outcomes, the potential, must be realized quickly. The turnaround period must be easier if, as I said, we are involved from the beginning. So we'll just be asking that we remodel some of the ways that we're financing, the conditions that are given, so that it becomes easier for us to participate. And I believe it is global, because we have attended some of the meetings, and most societies are also organized, either around subnational governments, and those are the last lines of defense in terms of delivery. So I think I'll end there to try and be disciplined, and I look forward to a successful conference, and welcome to Kenya. Thank you so much. I'm happy to also recognize a friend I met this morning, offering us, I hope you'll be given opportunity. He says he has some innovation, and to me it looked very nice innovation in terms of how we can save our coral reefs and even increase the potential and maybe even add some carbon credits through the innovations that you have. I hope you'll have opportunity in some forum so that we can be able to listen to you out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Excellency the Governor. He was my minister, and so I'm really restrained on telling him that time is running out. But he's tried to keep time. So at this point, I want to welcome the Executive Director, Blue Action Fund, Marcus. You're welcome.
Many thanks. I'm a little bit taller, so I'm trying to figure this out. Dear Chair, esteemed co-panelists, Excellencies, all protocol observed, it's a real pleasure to be here. We at the Blue Action Fund, we work on advancing 30 by 30, but we are not in the wrong panel. Because obviously, conservation and the economy is not to be separated. It's very much connected. And I brought a couple of pictures, at least if technology works. Yes, so we bring it back. And just to remind everyone, which everyone knows also, a blue economy depends on a healthy ocean and coastal ecosystem as a foundation for economic prosperity. And that's even more important in rural coastal communities. Food and livelihoods, storm and flood protection from mangroves, tourism, recreation, new value chains like seaweed. But also, if you work on 30 by 30 and a healthy ocean, you realize very fast that a healthy ocean depends on sustainable livelihood in coastal communities. If people don't have viable economic opportunities, or if the costs of protection fall on the most vulnerable, then conservation efforts simply won't last. It's very clear there's no healthy ocean without sustainable livelihoods, and there's no lasting economic prosperity without a healthy ocean. And that is why we at Blue Action Fund, as a fund of conservation, actually focus heavily on economic development. Our central goal is to support MPAs, as I just said. But these aren't usually no-take zones, only some of them. There is fishing activities, there's recreational activities, shipping, cultural activities. And we work with our partners and grantees all around the world to ensure that MPAs succeed by aligning them with the local economies and the needs of the local communities. So it's not a side issue for us, it's really a core part of our core program. And we invested in projects worth more than 200 million over the last 9 years. And we made combining conservation and economic development really a precondition to hand out grants. And it's not always easy to do this. It sounds a little bit like, yeah, you know, combine it. These are complex undertakings. And we are relying on partners, on consortium of partners that include environmental NGOs, business associations, development NGOs, who bring this together in order to ensure that this is really brought together. How do we do it? We are looking at the partners, we are looking at the budget allocation of our grants, we are looking if there is a clear understanding who has actually been using the MPAs and who or lives in the MPAs and how we can help those to maybe strengthen protection. So understanding the local economies brings also opportunities, and it helps us to build on existing strength. But now, in addition to the project level, I also want to zoom out for a second at the global issue. And it was mentioned SDG 14 is the most underfunded SDG that we have, and there's a real funding gap, especially if we take the 30 by 30 commitment seriously. We need both public and private investments, and we need them to work together. Public funding remains essential. MPAs provide public goods with real benefits, healthier fish stocks, reduced disaster losses, but they are rarely profitable. These are not enterprises. You don't buy an MPA to make money. And 30 by 30 is ultimately also a government commitment. It's a promise by governments to the world to protect 30% of the ocean by 2030. And that's why I'm incredibly appreciative of the leadership provided by Germany, Sweden, Norway, Ireland, and France in funding and guiding the Blue Action Fund and helping us to drive this forward. At the same time, we all know that public funding cannot solve this alone. We need to diversify and attract private capital. And this is why I'm so happy that we also brought something with us, and that I'm excited to launch a new call for proposals. We will invest around 17 million euros in mangroves, ecosystems, and blue carbon development in Asia. And obviously, the idea is not just to support restoration activities, but also to advance blue carbon as one of the tools to mobilize private capital to fund marine 30 by 30. Sustainable livelihoods and ocean health, they rise or fall together. If we want ecological, social, and financial resilience, we must invest in both ecosystems and livelihoods. And we must bring in public and private finance into genuine partnership. I'm looking forward to having further discussions with you, how we can bring these two areas together. And I thank you for your attention. Asante sana.
Thank you so much for your remarks. And now finally, we have the Director, Ecosystems Division, Madam Susan Gardner, and a friend. You're welcome. I think that takes care of you coming last.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Director General, Excellencies, Ambassador, Commissioner, all of our friends and colleagues here together. It's great to see the room so full and to have heard so many extraordinary insights already from this incredible panel. You know, I think it's very encouraging that we're hearing so many common messages across this conversation today. it feels like we're no longer having to continue to make the case, right? The world has gotten the message. 2 weeks ago, there was a number of us that were at the Island States Ocean Summit in Tokyo, and we heard the most extraordinarily powerful messages from heads of state, messages from so many island nations that the ocean is their identity, and it's their way of life, and it is their economy. They're inseparable. And these leaders repeated one of the messages over multiple times. It's that the political will to build a sustainable blue economy is there. It already exists. There's just a need for support and access to technology to make it happen. And just last year at UNOC 3, we also heard that investors were saying, hey, the finance is available. There's resources. We want to invest. There's just not enough investable projects. And then we hear project developers who are routinely saying something again that's different, that, well, yeah, we have good projects, they exist, but we're not able to access the finance at the scale and the time that we need it. Now, UNEP has some data that maybe helps explain how all of these things can be true at the same time. Because every year, the world is spending $7 trillion on activities that actually destroy nature. About $5 trillion of that comes from the private sector and various activities, and then another $2 trillion comes from well-intentioned but harmful public subsidies. So the money exists, it's simply flowing in the wrong direction. And a big part of this problem is essentially this disconnect. We know that the potential, as you heard from all the speakers, the potential for blue economy is extraordinary. Recently, the World Economic Forum asked, given the current global economic crisis, where is the growth going to come from? And the answer was overwhelmingly, well, from the ocean economy. The ocean economy is growing faster than the global economy. It's expected to double between 2020 and 2050. Going from about $2.5 trillion to more than $5 trillion. There's around 600 million people that depend on it, about 100 million jobs that are linked to just fisheries, aquaculture, and tourism alone. So when we have governance, when finance is responsible, the ocean economy can become really one of the strongest examples of how we protect nature, we support development, we generate revenue, and all of this aligns. But it's not going to just kind of happen magically by itself. It's about really shifting those capital flows. You've heard that from the other speakers already. Moving away from those harmful activities that destroy ocean ecosystems, moving towards economies that actually benefit people and nature. We're applying this principle in the Global Fund for Coral Reefs that is bringing together governments and investors, businesses, and local communities all together around a shared principle, which is that protecting coral reefs while creating economic opportunities go hand in hand. And to date, the GFCR has mobilized about $260 million US. So that's showing that when you bring finance and governance and local action together on a shared objective, this is really possible. And this is gaining momentum because more and more governments and companies are now seeing that actually nature loss puts your business bottom line at risk. When nature declines, the foundation of your economy is weakened. But when we turn that around for nature-positive investments, we unleash this extraordinary potential for the sustainable blue economy that sustains all of us, all of our lives, and our livelihoods that depend on the ocean. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we'll transition to Q&A, and I request our PA system to just make sure that our mics are working. I will request you once again. Our time is running out. We should be winding up by 3:45, so kindly, as I come with my questions, just be very precise. If I find you taking long, you lose one question each. Thank you so much. And probably this is not going to take the order in which I invited you up front and the order in which you made your keynote remarks. I want to take this opportunity now to begin with Commissioner Cadiz. And the first question I come with is, sustainability was a key word in your intervention. And so, can the blue economy truly be considered sustainable if fisheries remain under pressure from overfishing and IUU?
You're absolutely right. We cannot have sustainability with the level of overfishing and illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing. You know that more than 20% of the worldwide catches derive from IUU fishing, and this is not sustainable. And that is why the European Union is taking action, both at European level, within the European Union, at our borders, but also through international cooperation. Within the European Union, we have developed a robust legal framework, and we implement this legal framework in cooperation with our member states, but also with the support of the European Fisheries Control Agency, which carries out surveillance and control activities across the European Union in cooperation with the member states. At our borders, we are very proud that since January 2026, we have introduced the first ever digital certification scheme system, the catch system, which certifies that no fisheries product deriving from IUU fishing enters the European Union market. And at international level, we develop bilateral and international cooperation to promote a more sustainable fisheries activity, especially in the framework of the regional fisheries management organizations. This year only, we have supported the activities of these organizations with 8.5 million euros to carry out, among others, activities relevant to combating IUU fishing. So sustainability requires action, and the European Union is leading action towards combating IUU fishing.
Thank you so much. And how do you look forward to fisheries and aquaculture, ensuring this resilience and sustainability?
We are developing our vision for 2040 for fisheries and aquaculture sector. We ask ourselves, how do we want to see the fisheries and aquaculture sector in 2040? What activities, what actions we need to take from now until then in order to achieve this desirable status for our fisheries and aquaculture sector. We need to invest in innovation, we need to modernize and decarbonize our fleet, we need to introduce digital tools, but most importantly, we need to secure that our marine environment remains healthy, or we need to restore our marine environment because this is a prerequisite for a thriving fisheries and aquaculture sector. And finally, we need to place emphasis on the next generation. Unfortunately, we see that young people do not choose to enter into this profession, the fisheries and aquaculture area. And therefore, we need to work towards modernizing the sector and making it attractive in order to secure its sustainability.
Thank you so much. No one country in the room can fail to discuss matters IUU, but I'm happy about innovation and technology because we're having a much younger workforce that requires to be infused into the system. They may not do things the old way. So I move to Marcus. And my first question to you is, from your experience, what are the most effective approaches for ensuring that investment in marine ecosystem deliver tangible economic benefits for coastal communities while safeguarding the ocean ecosystem?
Thank you. The key is really to listen to the communities that live from the natural resources, that are dependent on those areas that sometimes we want to protect, be it through OECMs or be it through MPAs, but to build on the regional and the local knowledge and expertise and skills and opportunities to ensure that economic development goes hand in hand with conservation. It's very hard to expect from communities to accept that access is restricted. That's what usually comes along with marine protected area, if there's not some kind of other alternative opportunities offered and on the table. And that is really why it's so important to go down to the regional level also, to the local level, and not just to talk about the national economy or about port infrastructure or transportation, but I think if you really want to succeed on viable, thriving marine protected areas and these conservation measures, really have to go there, to have to listen very carefully. And that's when we are looking at our grants, we are looking very much that our NGO partners, our business partners, our development partners, that they have really local capacities on the ground. That's for us one of the most important criteria that we look at before we start a partnership.
What opportunity lies ahead for African or developing countries in terms of marine investment? Very briefly.
I think as always, I mean, there is a question of framework conditions, and where also our projects can play obviously a big role. So if you have data management systems in place, if you have done your spatial planning, if you have done these kind of exercises, it's obviously not only good for environment and conservation, it also helps potential economic actors to do more investments in Africa.
Marine spatial planning, the communities have to be involved, lest they say they are losing the land. That was a conversation in another room. I move to Susan. And my first question to you is, from your perspective, what are the top 3 steps we can take to make the sustainable blue economy transition practical and real? Wow.
Well, I agree with what we heard from Ambassador Eliana, that one of the first things we have to think about is governance, right? Because this is, among other things, going to provide the incentives, but it's also going to help provide some predictability for investors. The role of the regional Cs for governance has been enormously helpful as a delivery mechanism for a sustainable blue economy because of helping countries actually connect their science to policy and connect to each other. And they've been doing this for 50 years. They've been creating coherence across, countries' efforts to work on areas where they share the marine ecosystems. And I think through that you build trust, you build alignment, between neighboring countries. And I guess that would be the second thing. Building coherence is essential. In so many parts of the world, we see the efforts towards a similar goal, but using different approaches, using maybe different priorities. And here we have the enormous, remarkable West Indian Ocean Consortium that's actually bringing everyone together, bringing all of the different conservation groups together, working towards regional priorities that are established by member states under the Nairobi Convention. And I guess the third thing would be, inclusion in terms of creating that transparency to build trust, bringing everyone to the table so that we're getting all of the ideas, the outcomes, that we're ensuring an inclusive and equitable outcome so that everybody's benefiting from the blue economy that's built from all of this cooperation.
I request you finally to speak on behalf of the women in the room and the women out there with no voice to come into this conference in terms of barriers and possible ways of overcoming those barriers. Very briefly.
Thank you I don't think I can speak on behalf of all the women in this room. There's a lot of voices and strengths and expertise in this room. But I mean, one thing we do know is only 1% of climate finance goes to women-led organizations globally. So we know that. We know there's barriers that we have to remove, and we can do that in part by really designing finance that reaches women directly. So maybe that's directed towards the way that grants are given. Thank you. Yes, yes. I mean, we have a lot of networks. We have a lot of people here who can provide a lot of advice on that. But it probably also involves hardwiring gender equity into the ocean policies right from the start, whether that's a national economic policy or whether that's the response to a country's NBSAPs, NDCs, the approach to implementing SDG 14. These are all areas where we can make sure that there's a gender lens right at the beginning. Thank you for asking that
Thank you
question.
so much. I think that was a favor to the ladies in the room, and probably men have managed this ecosystem for far too long. They need to come on board. Finally, not finally, I have now Alain. Alain, I would wish to hear from you, from Seychelles, on issues to do with blue bonds and ocean finance. Is there anything other countries can copy from your experience in Seychelles?
It's a question that we've been asked for the last 10 years to share. And I mean, first one on the list is commitment. Starts with the will and the commitment by the leaders. You know, from when we began until when we accomplished the Marine Spatial Plan last year, so we're talking over a decade. Process of over a decade, and across 3 presidents and 3 administrations. So it takes a commitment towards the cause by the leaders, but also at the same time ensuring there's proper involvement. I think it's just been mentioned in terms of community, all the relevant stakeholders, starting within government itself, because you know, for these innovative finance schemes, it's collective work between, you know, certain lead ministries, whether it's the ministry responsible for environment or ministry responsible for oceans or blue economy, together with the Ministry of Finance. So that's the first hurdle, is to try and agree on the way forward and have a plan, clearly laid out plan, so that you can sell it to partners, so that you can get a lead partner, an ideal partner that can attract other partners, or especially investors, impact investors, because they will be the ones who will do the convincing and sell your idea to the, you know, private capital out there. So it is very important you have this this will, and also the necessary structures, because you need to give the confidence to investors to come in, and investors need to see as little risk as possible. They need to see transparency. They need to see a proper governance structure, so that they are comfortable in investing in and engaging with the country. So it requires a lot of effort and work to put in place this structure, so that eventually you can reach that goal. A lot of perseverance and collective effort by everyone.
Thank you so much. As you come to Kenya to see the elephants, we should come to benchmark with you in terms of all the aspects that you've captured in terms of governance, transparency, and all that, very critical aspects to influence investment. And finally, this is in less than 1 minute. After the achievement of the blue bonds and debt swap for nature, what are the priorities for Seychelles when it comes to financing your blue economy sector? Very briefly.
Things have changed for us compared to, you know, 15 years ago. We no longer have a debt situation, so we have to think about the next big thing. This is where we're opening up to partners, to investors, and saying, come in. We are open again, you know, to continue with this journey. We've set aside 30%. You know, way before the 30 by 30, we showed high level of commitment. We have leaders that are fully committed. So we are calling on investors to come in exploring, you know, other areas which we haven't explored. But at the same time, continue with the work. You know, like I've mentioned, the implementation of Marine Spatial Plan, but also continue to bring prosperity to the people, you know, through some of the activities that's been presented by the Blue Action Fund. You know, they may seem simple, but they are very relevant at the grassroots or, you know, to local community. So we're not done yet. We still want to forge ahead. For us now, it's more about innovation, looking at innovative and emerging sectors so that we can build upon what we've achieved so far.
Thank you so much. Kenya is now doing its MSP, and I'm sure that they are borrowing a lot from Seychelles. Thank you so much. To you, Ambassador. From your vantage point at the UN, what reforms to the global financial architecture are most urgently needed to make blue economy investment accessible to small island and coastal states?
Thank you very, very much, Paul. This is a topic that I speak a lot about. I think one of the things is a lot of the financial architecture has relied on a one-size-fits-all approach. And that makes it very, very difficult for small island developing states because we're very small in population and we're very, very small in capacity. Just to give you some context, and I told one of our colleagues from the UK this, my entire country's population is smaller than the UK Foreign Ministry. So when you have an architecture that relies on a $200,000 project to have the same diligence and requirement as a $2 billion project, that makes it very difficult for small island states to fulfill their requirements because we don't have advanced statisticians, kind of a higher level project proposal people who can really put together the project. And so that's one of the reasons why it's been very difficult for small island states to access climate finance, for example, and I think the same with blue finance as well. I'd also say, second to that, is we really need to address the fragmentation of the international financial architecture. So within the finance space, you know, we have GCF, we have GEF, we have kind of this multiplication of funds, which is a good thing. But when you have a small ministry of, you know, 10 people and you're trying to get a project and they're telling you to go out to all these multiple funds, that's very, very difficult to accomplish. So could there be aggregation or, for example, a common application where one project is then disseminated so many funds can kind of participate in it all at once? So I would say one is a really tailored approach to small island states, maybe through small special financial windows for quicker access. And the second is how can we streamline the fragmentation in the architecture, not so that it's not just easier for us as small island states, but I think collectively, if we're able to implement projects globally for everyone, it's better for us and it's better for the planet as well.
Thank you. Finally, how do we make the commitments be actionable, make them real on the ground?
I think it's been said before, I think the political will is there, but we need to rely on partnerships and we really need to change the structures so that they can work faster. So I would say working with our partner governments, but also with the MDBs and the IFIs to try to accelerate the speed in which finance is distributed, I think will go a long way in trying to get implementation to happen faster.
Thank you so much. And finally, I know we've eaten into our time, but this is very interesting and informative. I want to request His Excellency the Governor. We have a devolved system in Kenya, and I know this works anywhere in the world from the national level. But we're also interested to have funds to manage the blue economy on the ground. So devolved governments are often closer to the ground, but farthest from international finance. What will it take to get blue investment flowing more directly to the county or subnational level rather than trickling down from the top?
Thank you. Once again, I tend to think the way you have said, we run different political systems, but the whole idea again is just about aggregation. As I've had the problems we are facing as subnational government is almost similar to your presentation on small islands. And blue economy is about innovation. So we are saying, why can't we be more innovative in terms of our financing model to be able to accommodate what subnational governments can be mainstreamed in the early stages of decision making, so that when it comes to implementation, it becomes easier. So the whole idea is that, yes, we could be looking at the 2 billion project like you're saying, but it's not the same when you are looking at maybe 200 million. But the whole idea is that at the end of the day, these programs will have to be segregated to the communities, and sub-county government deal with the communities who are the main players. So to be able to reform or even be more innovative enough, we'll really ask some of the big players in the global financing of blue economy to be innovative so that we are able to mainstream and even sometimes tailor-make some programs for various communities. Like here in Kenya, we may have, yes, the coastal communities in terms of blue economy, but we also have got inland communities in terms of blue economy who may be interested much more in aquaculture and all that. And here we may be interested more in the mariculture. You know, you have just talked about the seaweed programs that we used to have here. And somehow we never made progress because we were using the women groups. But these women groups can be aggregated into cooperatives. And finally, you have a program within the county government, which is again now cascaded to the national level. So that means that they must be mainstreamed and we be innovative in terms of our financing models.
Thank you so much. I think you've wrapped it up on the two questions very well. And this brings us to a close of this session for Q&A for our panelists. Let me request that we give them a round of applause for the time that they've given us. Thank you so much. And I would request at this point that we would have a group photo, please.
While we take the group photo, I'd like to request the speakers for our next panel session to please walk to the holding area, which is on my left, at the very corner, the glass doors there, so that we can brief you for just a couple of minutes, and then we'll be back here to continue with the next program. The speakers, the panelists, and the moderator. Thank you.
At this point, we move to the commitments, and I wish to request that as I call your name, I believe that all of us are in the room. That is Claudio Barbaro, His Excellency Sakti Wahyu, Ron Tadif, Syndication. I will request that you come one at a time. You make your commitment, then you go back and sit. You'll be seated here. Once you do your commitment, kindly you come and sit here. So I'll begin with Claudio. Claudio, please. Let's settle down for the commitments. This is the most serious part again.
Yeah. Can I request the service providers with our translation gadgets to share a few gadgets?
As I invite you, you come straight here.
Please share the gadgets because this announcement will be made in Italian. Please share out the translation gadgets to the delegates. Thank you.
Onorevole Vice Ministra, Commissario, Eccellenze, colleghi, delegati, desidero ringraziare il Governo del Kenya, la Contea di Mombasa per l'organizzazione dell'11ª edizione della conferenza Il nostro oceano. Sostenibile deve basarsi sulla conoscenza scientifica e sulla valorizzazione delle risorse naturali e dei servizi ecosistemici. In tale direzione va il progetto ripristino degli ecosistemi marini finanziato dal Ministero dell'Ambiente nell'ambito del Programma Nazionale di Ripresa e Resilienza per un totale di 400 milioni di euro. L'iniziativa prevede la mappatura degli habitat marini di interesse conservazionistico e il ripristino del 20% degli ecosistemi marini entro il 2026 e una pianificazione spaziale marittima più efficace, contribuendo alla resilienza ai cambiamenti climatici e alla sostenibilità di settori fondamentali come pesca, turismo, alimentazione e crescita blu. Il nostro impegno si sviluppa anche nel contesto del Mediterraneo, un'area di straordinaria biodiversità ma particolarmente vulnerabile alle pressioni antropiche. Per questo l'Italia sostiene con convinzione che la Convenzione di Barcellona UNEP-MAP ha destinato negli ultimi anni circa 5 milioni di euro in contributi volontari a sostegno di attività prioritarie dei suoi programmi di lavoro, da ultimo il contributo alle attività del biennio 2026-2027 attraverso un accordo di cooperazione bilaterale con l'UNEP del dicembre 2025. L'Italia promuove dunque il ruolo delle convenzioni regionali marine nella governance oceanica, come dimostrato dall'iniziativa lanciata dall'Italia nell'ambito della presidenza G7 del 2024, culminata con l'adozione di una dichiarazione sul ruolo delle convenzioni regionali marine e dei relativi piani di azione nella gestione delle sfide globali legate alla governance oceanica. Tra queste, l'implementazione dell'accordo sulla conservazione ed uso sostenibile della biodiversità marina delle aree al di là della giurisdizione nazionale, accordo BBNJ, di cui celebriamo l'entrata in vigore lo scorso gennaio, e il raggiungimento del target 30x30 del quadro globale sulla biodiversità della Convenzione della biodiversità. In questo quadro annuncio con soddisfazione che l'Italia è stata dai primi paesi a aver consegnato il proprio rapporto nazionale sulla biodiversità. Colgo l'occasione infine per annunciare che l'Italia presenta oggi 21 impegni volontari diretti alla protezione e uso sostenibile di oceano e mari, per un ammontare totale di circa 662 milioni di euro. Oltre a contribuire al lavoro delle convenzioni e accordi in Mediterraneo, sosteniamo diversi progetti che spaziano dalla prevenzione e risposta all'inquinamento marino da idrocarburi e sversamenti al rafforzamento della cooperazione internazionale in tema di gestione integrata delle coste e dal coinvolgimento dei giovani attraverso la promozione di attività progettuali dedicate al mare. Ciò senza dimenticare il supporto a programmi dedicati alla promozione di pesca ed acquacoltura sostenibili ed alla ricerca di innovazione, tra cui segnalo il sostegno al sistema di osservazione oceanica integrata avviato dall'Italia con l'obiettivo di garantire il coordinamento ed armonizzazione delle attività di osservazione oceanica e fornire un accesso unico ai dati marini nazionali. Vi ringrazio per l'attenzione.
€21 commitments, over 600 million euros. That's a serious commitment from Italy. Thank you so much. And now I take this opportunity to invite His Excellency Sakti Wahyu, Minister of Marine Affairs and Fisheries, Republic of Indonesia. You're welcome.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia recognizes that a successful blue economy requires strong alignment between economic growth and environmental protection. To achieve this, we are advancing an integrated marine spatial planning approach that balances development and conservation across coastal land areas, coastal water, marine waters, maritime jurisdiction areas, and small islands. In 2026, Indonesia will further strengthen land and sea spatial planning integration by incorporating marine spatial planning into the national spatial planning, completing integrated terrestrial and marine spatial planning for the whole national provinces, establishing 2 additional interregional zoning regulations, and design 18 blue carbon national strategic area. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this effort will enhance ecosystem-based, climate-responsive, and legally coherent ocean governance, supporting our blue economy policy built on sustainability, equity, and inclusive growth. In conclusion, let us reaffirm our strong commitment to unleashing the potential of the sustainable blue economy as a vital pathway for inclusive growth. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Issues with marine spatial planning, again coming up, and zonation, those commitments, and even entrenching the policies of blue economy into our governance at national level. Thank you so much, Indonesia. And now we are followed with Ron Tariff, Ocean Innovation Lead, World Economic Forum and Executive of 1,000 Ocean Startups. Wow. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. So we've just heard how to unleash the potential of the blue economy. And this is exactly the question 1,000 Ocean Startups was built to answer. Ocean innovation is the applied science, the market building, and the enterprise creation that turns the ocean's resources into livelihoods, regenerative supply chains, and investable opportunities. We are a coalition of 67 member organizations, including venture studios, accelerators, venture capital funds, and family offices, with a shared commitment to support 1,000 ocean-positive startups by the end of the UN Ocean Decade. I am proud to announce today, for the first time, we have collectively supported more than 900 ocean impact ventures across 57 countries, with a combined portfolio value between 11 and 15 billion US dollars. Our coalition members have supported 86 ocean impact startups headquartered in Africa. That is 9% of our global portfolio, but those companies account for less than 2% of the global valuation. African ventures are nearly 3 times less likely to have recorded valuation data than their global peers. The world is currently unable to see the value of what African ocean startups are building. We have recently conducted a global founder survey where we found that African companies are significantly more likely than their global peers to pursue social outcomes. In fact, every African startup in our community places this at the core of their business model. 68% report their solutions are already operating in or directly supporting marine conservation areas, double the global average. And 65% say that the right type of capital is simply not available. This is not a shortage of deals, but a mismatch of instruments. This is why we are here at the first Our Ocean conference hosted in Africa. Today we are also proud to announce the launch of 1,000 Ocean Startups Africa, the Africa regional community within our global coalition, co-anchored by Ocean Hub Africa and Sote Hub here in Kenya, with our members including Catapult Ocean, BFA Global, Aquaspark, Hatch Blue, and our ecosystem partner, Dune Foundation. Last year, we launched the 1,000 Ocean Startups Asia Pacific community, which has already expanded the coalition's supported startup base in the Asia Pacific region, aligned financing, and connected regional ecosystem builders to the global network. 1,000 OS Africa exists to replicate that impact while also coordinating Africa's blue economy networks that work but don't connect, capital that is looking but not finding, solutions that are proven but struggling to be visible. What gives us confidence is that our global network is already capable of achieving great things. Across the coalition, 81% of our members actively collaborate with one another to accelerate their support for ocean innovation, and 48% of our investor members are already co-investing together. So this is a tested, measurable, vibrant ecosystem which, to quote Ambassador Nancy Karagitu, allows momentum to compound across regions. Through 1,000 OS Africa, we are extending that culture of coordination, collaboration, and shared action to strengthen Africa's ocean innovation landscape. The sessions that we've convened this week have underscored exactly where the system breaks down and where we commit to act. On capital mismatch, our member investors are designing blended finance structures and revenue-based instruments built for harvest cycles and regenerative business models designed for African contexts, where 65% of our ventures cannot access the right capital today. On risk perception, this is the primary barrier named by our community, and 1,000 OS Africa aims to build shared pipeline visibility across our members so that funders can track ventures across a continuum rather than starting over every time. On policy, national sustainable ocean plans, which we've heard about today, across the continent can set conservation targets and fisheries quotas but none of them so far address innovation and entrepreneurship. So we have already acknowledged this need to engage with partners to change that, to reduce regulatory barriers that compound investor risk and slow ventures at every stage. On corporate engagement, half of our members in our network already actively engage with corporate collaborators. So we intend to use this network to open market access pathways for African ventures, connecting proven models in seafood supply chains, cold chain infrastructure, and marine bioproducts to the corporate off-takers that can help them scale. And on replicability, in Kenya alone, 66% of our ventures have at least one female founder. In Tanzania, 55%, nearly double the global average. These are important strengths to recognize about the Africa ecosystem. So 1000 OS Africa will document and systematize the models that are replicable across the continent so that the next generation of founders does not start from zero. So if you are committed to supporting ocean ventures as an investor, a corporate partner, or an ecosystem builder, find us, join us, and let us build the future of the blue economy together. Thank you.
Let's clap for him. Thank you, Ron. 1,000 startups, that's for Africa? The ones that are coming up? Perfect. I wish the bankers were in here. I saw some bankers with shirts here. I don't know where they disappeared. They keep on asking me about investment and the risking, the blue economy investment. This is the day. Let me have our next commitment coming from Siniknesh Beyenejima. This is the Chief of Marine and Coastal Ecosystems Unit, United Nations, that is UNEP. Welcome.
Thank you so much, DG, for giving me the floor. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to present the Global Fund for Coral Reef commitment at this 11th our Ocean Conference, called by the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, the United Nations Capital Development Fund, UNCDF, the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP. The Global Fund for Coral Reef has been working in coalition with a wider public-private philanthropic organization, is one of the world pioneering blended finance platform. The Global Fund for Coral Reef mobilizes public and private capital to protect and effectively manage the world's most climate vulnerable coral ecosystems. Convening governments, UN organizations, financial institutions, philanthropic organizations, impact investors, conservation actors, entrepreneurs, and the civil society organizations. The Global Fund for Coral Reef delivers its commitment through a blended finance model designed to translate political ambition into measurable, scalable, actionable coral reef and coral development community. At the midpoint of its life cycle, the Global Fund for Coral Reef has reached 50% of its capitalization, of its catalytic budget or funding to the US $240 million, enabling to deploy capital with increasing scale and confidence. To date, the Global Fund for Coral Reef has supported 245 partners to implement over 150 businesses and financial solutions across 22 coral nations. Through this partnership, the Global Fund for Coral Reef supports projects that strengthen market-based pathways that improve the management of nearly 2 million hectares of coral reef ecosystem and enhance the climate and economic resilience of over 6 million people. Using an integrated approach that combines policy reform, market development, and targeted investment, the Global Fund for Coral Reef has enabled and strengthened sustainable finance mechanism that supports the effective management and longer-term financing of marine protected area and conservation areas. As a result, we have supported marine protected area coverage, which expands 200%, exceeding its initial target. Looking ahead, the Global Fund for Coral Reef will scale its investment portfolio and financing instrument in line with the strategic plan to unlock new revenue streams and mobilize public and private capital. By 2030, the Global Fund for Coral Reef will align investment aim to improve the management across 20 million hectares of coral reef, strengthen the resilience of more than 20 million coastal community, support over 400 reef positive businesses and financial mechanisms, and will create 20,000 jobs and leverage more than 3 billion USD in public and private finance. I thank you.
Thank you so much, and we have engaged directly with you. We are not in doubt of the support that you've given, especially Kenya. I can only speak for Kenya. I don't know the other countries. And finally, we have Laila Uweso Abubakar. Professor, welcome, from Technical University of Mombasa, to give you a commitment, and that's the final commitment we are receiving in the room. Thank you so much.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Technical University of Mombasa, where I'm the Vice Chancellor, we pride ourselves to be the only public university at sea level, and we are pleased to announce the commitment of advancing the blue economy skills, research and enterprise development through university industry collaboration in the coastal Kenya. Kenya's coast, as you've all heard through different speakers, possess enormous blue economy potential in fisheries, aquaculture, maritime transport, tourism, and other ocean-based sectors. Yet, realizing this potential requires more than the natural resources. It requires skilled people, relevant research, innovation, and strong connections between universities, industries, and our communities. Our commitment is to help build this foundation. As part of the commitment, the government of Kenya, through the African Development Bank in 2026 and 2027, has committed to give 1.4 billion Kenya shillings to establish the Center of Excellence at Technical University of Mombasa for blue economy, enterprise development, innovation, and drive business incubation, commercialization, technology transfer, and support for coastal enterprises. The university itself, through the institutional resources, is committing also to invest 200 million in strategic partnership and external grants to strengthen the blue economy skills development, expand applied research and innovation, and deepen collaboration with industry to support enterprise development and job creation among our youth. We further commit to undertake applied research and innovation projects that would support the growth of blue economy enterprises, train at least 5,000 youth, women, and entrepreneurs, and facilitate industry placements in partnership with government, industry, development partners, and coastal communities. We will focus particularly on areas where our university already has established strength, that is the Institute of Marine and Seafaring Studies, marine engineering programs, and other oceanography and fisheries programs that are at our institution. I'm also pleased to say that in Kenya, the degree in nautical science is only offered at Technical University of Mombasa. So we want again now to have master's program and PhD programs. So we are launching 3 master's programs and 1 PhD in maritime studies to create a pipeline for highly skilled professionals and researchers to advance Kenya's blue economy and sustainable management of our ocean resources. By advancing our skills, research, and enterprise development together, we believe that the Technical University of Mombasa can play a critical role in building a sustainable and inclusive blue economy for Kenya and the West Indian Ocean region. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Professor. And those commitments you've made since Kemfree has an MOU with you, we have also made the commitments. We are looking forward to having graduates who are job creators and not job seekers. It's the greatest challenge we have in Africa. Thank you so much. To that end, I would wish to request my commitment team to be upstanding for a photo as we wind up this. My apologies if we took slightly longer. This is critical. It only comes at our 11th Ocean Conference. We don't know when the 12th comes, what commitments will be made. You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Yorina. A round of applause for our moderator this afternoon. Thank you so much. I want to call the next plenary session into order, and I'd like to invite our moderator, our keynote speaker, and our panelists also to come from the holding room, to come and join us inside the hall so that we can begin this plenary session. We're discussing driving ambitions or ambitious ocean climate action to support global climate goals. I'm kindly requesting that our panelists will join us in the hall so that we can begin. And thank you so much for your patience. Even though we've eaten into the time that should have been for the plenary session 3, we have discussed with the moderator, and we hope to end or